In today's episode, we explore the all too familiar world of workplace disruptions, offering you 10 effective strategies for managing the unexpected flybys and maintaining your productivity. Hi, I'm Mark, and this is the Mr. Productivity Podcast, the show that is dedicated to empowering you to conquer distractions, prioritize effectively, and gain daily clarity. Now, before we begin, I have a very important question to ask you, and I hope your answer is a resounding yes. Would you like some free training from me? Well, just head on over to my website, MrProductivity.com, M-I-S-T-E-R, MrProductivity.com. Just enter your email address and click the button that says grab the free training. It's my gift to you, MrProductivity.com. All right, let's get started, shall we? Today, I'm going to give you 10 ways to deal with flybys, also known as people. Now, how many times have you been working diligently in your office? You have been in the zone. I don't care if your office is at home or in an office building, and someone comes by and interrupts you. Well, today I'm going to give you 10 ways you can deal with what I call flybys. Now, number one, you need to learn how to deal with got 5 minutes. And I'm going to go over this really quickly because I don't want to overcomplicate this for you. When someone comes to your office, I don't care who they are, the president of the company, yes, even the CEO, a shareholder, or someone beneath you. If you do not have 5 minutes, be professional, be courteous, and tell them, no, I do not have 5 minutes. Now, I'm going to date myself here, but there's a show back in the 60s or 70s, I believe, Gomer Pyle, and he used to have a saying called nip it in the bud. You've got to nip that thing in the bud. Do not give them an inch because they will take a mile. Don't just stop there, and certainly don't be rude. If you don't have 5 minutes, say, no, I don't have 5 minutes right now. I'm in the middle of doing something, but I do have 15 minutes this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Does that work for you? So you're being helpful. If you do have 5 minutes, let's say for whatever reason you have 5 minutes, you just want to take a break, make sure that you set the boundaries and you tell them, yes, I have just 5 minutes. Make sure they understand that. Now, you may have to go to an extreme tactic, which means pulling out your smartphone in front of them, setting the timer, hitting start, and say, go. They may look at you kind of weird, but again, it's all about boundaries. You have to deal with how to deal with 5 minutes. At the end of 5 minutes, if they say to you, they need more than 5 minutes, say, that's no problem. I have 15 minutes at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Does that work for you? Make sure you stay in control. Number two, learn to use the power of no. Don't use the power of no when your superiors come to you and ask you to work on a project, or can you work late, or can you fly to Salt Lake City for the weekend. Don't say no to that. That may not be a good career move, but strategically say the power of no if people are bothering you all the time. If you are busy, if you are in the zone, if you are in the flow state, please use the power of no politely, professionally, and say, no, I don't have a moment right now. No, I can't take on any more projects, supervisor. Here's why. Never just say no and leave it at that. Always be professional and always have a solution. Number three, if you have an office door, close it. If you need to be uninterrupted, you need to put a barrier up. And one of the ways to do that is to close your door. Number four, if you don't have a door, consider using colored construction paper. 3 colors, red, yellow, and green. The green is the best for the people who are flying by your office. That means you're available. Yellow means you're available, but proceed with caution. In other words, you don't want to be caught up into the water cooler talk for 3 hours. And red obviously means stop, do not enter, do not disturb me. Consider doing that because that'll give a signal to people flying by your office who just want to chit chat for 5, 10, 15, 20, 35, 45, 95 minutes of your time that you are not busy. Now, it's going to involve some training, but I know you can do this. So red, do not disturb. Yellow means you're available, but proceed with caution. And green means you're available. Number 5, if you have one, use your executive assistant as a buffer. A lot of my clients have executive assistants, and you have to walk by the executive assistant's office to get to their office, the executive's office. Use their assistant, because a really good executive assistant is your best friend. If you're a leader, you already know this, and say, hey, I don't want to be interrupted for the next hour. And a good executive assistant, unless the building's on fire, ain't no one going to get you. So consider that. Number 6, share your calendar. In Outlook and several other calendar apps, you can share your calendar without sharing the details. In other words, you can show I'm busy, I'm unavailable, but they don't know what you're busy or unavailable doing. Number 7, embrace my mantra. Get to the point, stick to the point. When someone comes into your office, once they say, you got 5 minutes, you say, yes, I do have 5 minutes. You want them to get to the point and stick to the point. You don't want them going from Houston to San Antonio by way of Miami, South Africa, Paris, Russia, Japan, Hawaii, Guam, San Francisco, and San Antonio. You want them to get right to the point and stay at the point. So if they're done in 90 seconds, bye. We're not going to chit chat for the next 3.5 minutes. You have got work to do in order to stay productive. Number 8, consider using a service like Calendly. When a client schedules time with me, when a guest from my podcast schedules time to be interviewed, I send them a Calendly link. What is Calendly? If you're not familiar, I set my availability on Calendly. They click the link. They look at their calendar. They find the time slot that works for them. They schedule everything. I'm not involved. It makes it fully automated. I get an email. The event gets scheduled on my calendar, and I just show up at the time of the client call or the podcast interview. So consider using the service like Calendly. There's a lot of services out there. I happen to use Calendly. No affiliate link here. It'll take a lot off your plate. Number 9, learn the difference between firm and flexible appointments. I schedule every moment of every day. Here's the thing. There are certain appointments that are firm: speaking gigs, podcasting interviews, client coaching calls. Those are firm. I'm not going to move one of those unless I absolutely have to do it. It's got to be pretty much near death. But I also schedule time for follow-up, for networking on social media, and all that stuff. That is known as flexible appointments. So if I've got something scheduled, let's say I'm going to read for half an hour at 2:00, and then someone wants to schedule time on that during that time, I'll just move that particular flexible appointment and put the firm appointment in there. So there's firm and there's flexible appointments. And number 10, evaluate whether you need to attend the meetings you are invited to. Now, meetings, I used to be in corporate America up until 2005, and I can't tell you how many meetings I've gone to. I sat there and go, why am I even here? Never got asked the question. And of course, you have to walk to the meeting location, and it never starts on time because people wander in at different times. And then they make the mistake of serving coffee and Danish and all this stuff, and people chit chat. Then they get the meeting started. Then they review the minutes from the last meeting, and then they go around the room, and it's a colossal waste of time. So if you are a meeting planner, make sure you're only inviting the people who absolutely, positively need to be there. I read a story about Steve Jobs once where he was having a meeting and he was doing his spiel, and he stopped in mid-sentence, and he looked at this young lady, and he goes, what are you doing here? And she was invited by her boss, and she said, my boss invited me. And Steve Jobs looked directly at her and says, we won't be needing you here. And he waited till she left. That's kind of cold. Don't do that. But the point is, don't go to meetings that you don't absolutely need to be there. And if you do need to be there, say, hey, listen, can I just come in, do my spiel, and get back to work? Because if you've ever been in a meeting that's gone on way too long, you sit there going, my goodness, I can't get anything done. So consider that. Again, here are 10 ways to deal with flybys. Number 1, learn how to deal with got 5 minutes. Number 2, learn how to use the power of no. Number 3, close your office door if you have one. If you don't, number 4, use colored construction paper. Red, do not disturb. Yellow, you're available, but proceed with caution. And green, you're available. Number 5, use your executive assistant. Number 6, share your calendar. Number 7, embrace the get to the point, stick to the point mantra. Number 8, use a service like Calendly to schedule your appointments. Number 9, learn the difference between firm and flexible appointments and implement the idea. And number 10, evaluate whether you need to attend the meetings you're invited to. And if you're a meeting planner, really think about who absolutely really needs to be there. And before you go, it would mean the world to me, and I mean the world, if you would follow this podcast on whatever podcast player you are listening to it on, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, or some other of the million podcast players out there. Hyperbole much, Mark? I would really appreciate it. That would tell the podcast player that you thought this podcast and this podcast episode was valuable, and they will share it with other people so I can help them like I helped you. And I really appreciate if you would do that. And don't forget to head on over to my website, MrProductivity.com, MISTER, MrProductivity.com, to get some free training from me. I'll be back real soon with a new episode of the Mr. Productivity Podcast. Until then, stay productive and stay positive.